The textbook's definition of Venus-Jupiter is lover's bliss. And the reason for this is because Venus represents love, and Jupiter largely represents the fulfillment of our desires. Therefore, the combination of Venus and Jupiter is representing lover's bliss, or the fulfillment of our desires through love. And it is a wonderful combination for us to find, particularly within the natal chart, because it's representing that we know how to not only be positive love connections for the people who we're in romantic relationships with, but it also says that we tend to attract into our lives positive love connections as well. The combination of Venus and Jupiter is one that I look for emphatically within electional astrology. When somebody comes to me and they want to know when is a good time for them to get married, I'm oftentimes going to be looking for when their Venus is going to be aspected by Jupiter, and not necessarily when their Jupiter is going to be aspected by Venus, because that's a far smaller impact than the impact of the slower moving Jupiter to our natal Venus within our birth charts. The point is that Venus and Jupiter in combination is a wonderful combination as far as blessedness within our love life is concerned. It's something that we love to see all the time. And it is our number one go-to midpoint in Uranian astrology as far as seeing what a person's destiny in this lifetime is going to be like as far as the topic of love and romance are concerned. So Venus and Jupiter in combination is a wonderful blessing for love in general. Now, outside of the realm of love, when people have Venus and Jupiter together within their birth charts, they know how to wine and dine and schmooze people around them, because Venus and Jupiter has to do with us creating warm and loving social environment for other people to connect with us in and for other people to be a part of. So when we have Venus and Jupiter in combination, it says that we know how to not only throw a party, but we also know how to be the life of the party. It's a wonderful combination for entertainers, but it's also a wonderful combination for people who entertain others simply by hosting them in their own homes. The person who has Venus and Jupiter in hard aspects natally is the quintessential host. They know how to take care of you, and they know how to throw a good enough party that you're going to want to come back and visit them once more. We love Venus-Jupiter. Because Jupiter represents success and Venus represents art, Venus-Jupiter is also a combination that we can find in the charts of people who tend to be successful in art or successful in the beauty industry in general, because they have an expanded internal vision within themselves regarding what looks beautiful within the world. And because we're talking about the two benefics, Jupiter being the greater benefic and Venus being the lesser benefic, whatever they do, people tend to resonate with and people tend to naturally be drawn to. One of the things that we have to be mindful of with Venus and Jupiter is this idea of overindulgence. And the reason for that is because Venus represents us living an opulent, wonderful, comfortable life, and Jupiter represents our desire to consume as much of the world as possible and reconstitute as much of the world back into our understanding of ourselves as we possibly can within this lifetime. So when we have Venus and Jupiter in hard aspects, it can sometimes represent that we have a very sweet tooth. We love the taste of sugar, it's something that we can't live without, but it can also represent us not necessarily having the clearest sense of sobriety in the world as far as both what we're eating, but also what we're doing as far as the pursuit of pleasure is concerned. So the Venus-Jupiter combination is a very tricky combination because on the one hand, we love it. There is technically no better combination than the coming together of the greater and the lesser benefic, but at the same time, it can create an environment within ourselves where we are so attracted to the finer things in life and also to this sense of having our desires satiated that we can overdo it, which is why Venus and Jupiter together can very easily lean in the direction of gluttony and greed. Because Venus also has to do with smoothing over the rough edges that exist within our relationships with others, Venus and Jupiter in combination in our natal chart can also denote a person who finds success and material wealth through doing something that has to do with mediation, or through doing something that has to do with smoothing over the rough edges that exist within people's relationships. So the Venus-Jupiter person can be wonderful as far as counseling in general is concerned. They can also be great as far as human resources and public relations are concerned, because when a person has Venus-Jupiter, they know exactly what to do to make everybody else around them feel as if they're participating in a pleasurable experience, and this is why these people can excel in terms of anything that requires soft human skills in terms of mitigating crisis or drama. Venus-Jupiter is, once again, the quintessential combination as far as therapy is concerned, and not necessarily because there's something particularly healing within the coming together of Venus and Jupiter, but because the Venus-Jupiter therapist knows how to create an environment where people feel open enough to share, but also an environment in which people feel open enough to heal. And so these are things that we enjoy very much about the coming together of Venus and Jupiter in hard aspect. Within the context of one's career, Venus and Jupiter can be a little bit nebulous because Venus is representing the good life and Jupiter is also representing the good life. And very often when we have Venus and Jupiter together, it's very easy for us not to work, but still to have the desires of luxury that comes from working. So sometimes when Venus and Jupiter is manifesting negatively within a person's chart, this could be a person who still desires to have all of the lavish, opulent abundance that life has to offer them, but they might find it very difficult to actually get up out of bed and go and do the work necessary in order to make that happen. And if they do find themselves attracted to some form of work, it might be a form of work that doesn't necessarily feel like your typical 9-to-5 job, because they need to be in a job environment that feels pleasurable and pleasant and potentially even creative. So Venus and Jupiter together can be a creative entrepreneur, but they can also be people who are fundamentally doing a job based on designing pleasurable experiences for others. And if you're a Venus-Jupiter person and if you've been mulling over what sort of job you should be doing, then this idea of designing experiences, becoming an experienced designer for other people, could be something that you do very well. And you could express that through interior design, you could express that through landscape design. Anything that gives people around you the opportunity to participate in not just an event, but actually an experience is something that's right up your alley.